Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. And so here we are. Let me bring up my agenda so we can move the machine forward. Oh, and of course, if you like this kind of thing, feel free to give it a like. Anyway, let's get into the show. We are looking at Nomadland tonight. But before we get started on that, I did want to do a quick reminder to everyone. Of course, next week we're going to be doing our Oscars watch party. And wouldn't you want something from Hot Take Harry? Wouldn't you want a prize from that guy there? Anyway, in the description, and I'll pin a link after the show, you'll find a way to enter our contest, our prediction contest. And on the actual show night, we got another surprise for you, but I'll wait until later in the show when Jim announces, when Jim and I chat about what's coming up next. So anyway, go into the description, put in your entry card. You might win a less than valuable prize, but it'll be from us, so it'll mean something in here. Anyway, where the heck was I? Oh, right, Nomadland. Okay, let's get the Logline out of the way. All right, after middle-aged widow Fern, played by Frances McDormand, loses her job, she packs up her belongings into a cargo van and becomes a modern-day nomad, looking for work in post the Great Recession America. It's written and directed by Chloe Zhao, or maybe Chloe, and I'm probably pronouncing the last name as Zhao, something to that effect. I've done my best. It's based on the book Nomadland, Surviving America in the 21st Century by Jessica Bruder. It stars Frances McDormand, and it also stars David Strathairn, Linda May, Charlene Swanky, Bob Wells, Derek Andres, Peter Spears, and Tay Strathairn. So that about rounds all of that out. Now it's time to get into the ideological ingredients. First of all, on the production side, could it earn a reframe stamp? I suspect it will. Frances McDormand produced it. It was written and directed by Chloe Zhao. So they already hit a number of points in their system. So I think they'll get it. But of course, Reframe will have to chime in on that for sure. Is it a union-made picture? No, it isn't. And if it looks like I'm kind of irritated, it's because I am. But that's foreshadowing on my opinion of this picture. Does it pass the Bechdel test? absolutely. You know what? Yes, 1,000 yeses. The biatches of the Badlands kick this test's ass. And then last but certainly not least, is it in any way class conscious? Good Lord, no. Right along with its no union made stamp, it's not class conscious at all. As a matter of fact, I think any Marxist would call it false. It has a false consciousness. Anyway, we'll get more into that when I rant probably multiple times during the show. All right, now we've gotten that out of the way. I've plugged that. We've done that. I think it's time to bring in my not just one, but two hosts tonight. First of all, of course, there's my fellow van nomad, Mr. Jim Choboyko. How you doing, man?
You from my van. Check out my kitchen's over there. I've got my bucket over there. Good.
Excellent.
She didn't even take the dog. They set the dog up in the first act. Didn't even take the dog.
She slightly pet it.
Yes. Somebody else will take care of it.
Although I thought that note was pretty on theme, and we will get into it after I rant. All right, we have another treat for you folks. Longtime friend of the show, occasional guest host, who I'm saying is kind of like the speaker for the regular audience. And I don't mean that in a pejorative sense, but brings that kind of street level, hey, I just want to watch a good movie kind of vibe to it. Ms. Katie Fowler. How you doing, Katie?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well.
Katie.
Speaking from the street level.
Speaking from the street level, the regular film goer.
That's totally, yeah, you nailed it. Good.
All right.
Yeah, so the expectations are set lower from my responses, which is good.
No, I'm
serious.
That is not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, Rob and I are Starsky and Hutch and Katie's Huggy Bear, I think the character was.
Oh, my God.
I'm just kidding.
Okay. Although, mind you, who wouldn't want to be Huggy Bear?
Was that the name of the character?
Huggy, yes, I'm pretty
Was it?
sure
Okay.
it was Huggy Bear, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Let's before we jump into the show and everything. Let's see if we got anyone in the chat. It's weird over the last, and look at this. How could you not love Hot Take Harry? Like Hot Take Harry's the best. Richard, and so okay, we've got 1/3 of the Balmoral Street irregulars, research irregulars on the camera right now, and we have another third is chiming in here. Mr. Richard L, good to see you, man. And I'm gonna jump to this. Yay! Welcome, Katie. Why don't you just tilt the camera over a bit and we can wave?
Yeah.
Richard, thanks for coming, and thanks for chiming in. Guys, it's weird. We have had, like I would say our active view count has, been kind of strange the last several shows, but we've had some really good, like, uptake in the another round. I got some Swede in the chat, in the comments, where I'm like, okay, I've got to address this, but he's commented a lot. There's a lot to unpack here. Mm-hmm. The video did with Brian from Dragon Movie Guy, that's like, that kind of blew up. Like, I mean, yeah, no, I think this is all working out very well. So, but it's kind of surprising. Like, I mean, as our chat participation's dropped a little, Mr. Beaver, good to see you here.
Yay! The
Oh,
wave.
And you know who we did? We got to give a wave to. We got to give a wave to Richard L.
Oh, of course. Yes, waves for everyone. I should say for Beaver, he's got a new logo that he's put out there, and I didn't have a chance.
Sporting.
I've been working all day, and that's a great logo, the hockey mask one. I think
Yeah.
it's new anyway, but yeah, it's really sharp.
Yeah, I don't think that's the one in his avatar just yet. Here, you may have to upgrade that.
No,
but it's, yeah. Good to see you here, man. Hope you enjoy the show. I think this is the first time he's chimed in on our chat, or maybe the second time. I'm trying to remember now. Yeah. Anyway, with that out of the way, why don't we get started? Yeah, let's throw it over to you, Jim. In part because I got to go run and grab something, but I got to throw it over to you first. Why don't you chime in with your first thoughts?
Sure, yeah. And I took a chance to write a few words down, so I wasn't freestyling too ill-disciplined. But anyway, what I wrote was embrace the contradiction, a cruel society and system populated by largely in this kind people in this movie. On paper, this is a movie that may not necessarily work, but Fern finding dignity in a sometimes undignified existence, it makes for a strangely fascinating film. I wasn't. It's not. There's not any standard antagonist protagonist, but it made for interesting viewing from my point of view. And despite all the hardships, it made me want to hit the road again. It's springtime, of course. Somehow Frances McDormand makes being a great listener. Her Fern character pretty much listens the entire time to various people's stories. Turns into a little bit of a drama documentary hybrid. But there are some issues with the film. I'm sort of curious to see Rob's take on it a little bit, and or not a little bit, but yeah, I think it'll lead to a good conversation. My wife and I watched this last night, and it ended, and she said, "Boy, that went by quick," and I'm not sure what to think about it right away. So yeah, that was sort of my feeling too, and I sort of let it wash through my brain today a bit, and yeah. Anyway, it'll be interesting to compare notes, I think.
No, yeah, no. I'm gonna jump. Okay, I'm assuming you guys can hear me, eh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that would be tragic if you couldn't hear me. Katie, take it away for your first thoughts.
Yeah. I enjoyed the film, and as Richard mentioned, it passed the baby test, so that was I was happy with that.
Can you explain to us what that is, Katie? Maybe give us a little bit of the history on the baby test.
Yeah. It was sort of, I guess it sort of sprung out of some issues I had with previous films that were featured on Jim and Rob's show, where babies were put under duress in some way that made me feel very uncomfortable as a viewer. So whether it's babies being kidnapped, babies having guns pointed at them, it was
directly at them.
It's just a no-go zone for me. So, but in this film, there is a baby in the film, and
at no time was ever threatened or put under.
No,
at risk.
There was the occasional crying as babies do, like fussing, but that's to be expected. And yeah, endearing actually in the scene that the baby was in, I think. Yeah, so passes the baby test. From a travel perspective, from my perspective as a tourism professional, I enjoyed watching the film because, personally, because it brought up not only one road trip but two road trips that I've taken to the U.S. with my husband, and it was wonderful to kind of relive those experiences again. We my husband and I, we actually did stop at Wild Drug in the Badlands in South Dakota. So we know that tourist stop well, and
that's super cool.
Yeah, and I said, oh, go ahead, Jim.
I've been there too.
You've been there? Okay, good. And just as a side note, I said to Richard that Fern could serve my meal anytime because she was generous with the gravy. So, yeah.
Not exactly graceful, but she was generous. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, she was generous. So, yeah. So that was great. So there was that. And then she also, I recognized it right away watching it. She was driving along the Pacific Coast Highway in California, which is incredible. So I enjoyed it from that aspect, just the places that she went to, definitely. And so it, I guess, is as far as the actual movie goes, the story, and we'll get into that. But just for my first thoughts, I enjoyed the movie, especially considering there wasn't really any. I think I'll talk about what my most climatic moment was for me, but later on. But considering it wasn't really like an identifiable climax, I enjoyed the movie nonetheless. Would it be a movie that sort of resonates with me, or is it?
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off there.
Yeah, go for
you know what? Save something for the show.
Okay,
I'll leave. I think you captured the first part, but leave something. We got 9 innings here, Katie. 9 innings.
Sounds good.
Several sections.
Got
it. Okay, for myself, guys, it is a very well done film. It's a good movie. It's got all the elements one would expect of a movie, and even some praiseworthy moments. There's some really sweet moments, like whether they be, with a bit of bathos, the whole Linda May tooling around and Fern tooling around in the golf cart, calling themselves the bitches of the Badlands, or those poignant moments. It had a lot of things going on. I cannot get past the fact that this film, and I'll get more into detail later, but I can't get past, guys, the fact that this is a non-union film that actively stripped the political commentary from the book it's based on. I can't get past that. So if we move into our next part, before we get into the spoiler zone, is it worth your time? For myself, and this is really where we recommend to the audience, whether we think it's worth your time. As good a film as it is, it goes too far on that end, and I feel like I don't feel right recommending it to anyone. That said, Katie, was it worth your time? Was it worth other people's time? Like, from your perspective, notwithstanding my rant, which will continue.
Yes, I think it's worth your time.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Jim, how about yourself?
As a character study, I'd say yes. As a sort of a political discourse, I think it strayed away from that. But yeah, as a character study, if you can compartmentalize, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. No, that's great comments from both of you. All right, folks. For those of you aren't familiar with the way we our whole MO here, after this part, this is kind of the high level stuff. Now we're moving into, if I can find it, yes, we're moving into the spoiler zone now. Here is the point in the programming where we take a look at the sound, the look, the performances, the story, the meaning, and yeah, all parts of the film can be discussed. So if you haven't seen it before and you don't like spoilers, this would be the time to check out. I don't want you to go, but I totally understand if you do. All right. Okay. Katie, why don't you bear with me? What do you start us off? What did you think as far as the sound goes?
Yeah, it was
Any
definitely
comments?
definitely not a movie that was propped up by music so much. There was really, I think, just the piano pieces interwoven throughout the film, which I felt was, when it was used, it was appropriate. It set the mood for the scene. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, beautiful work. She played the flute briefly.
Oh yeah.
And I think at the beginning, I think maybe I was able to manage it throughout the film, but I found that at times, like, and perhaps it's for effect, but for instance, when she was at working at Amazon, the noises in her workspace would I guess it would overpower the dialogue. So sometimes it was maybe just I could still hear them, but it was really just the sounds of the workplaces that some of the places she was in really overpowered in that sense. And
do you think, Katie, that was like a purposeful choice from the filmmaker's perspective?
Well, could be just to give more effect to what the space would be like in that environment. It's this, I mean, I'll get into this more later in the theme, but it probably was to build. It was probably meant to build that environment. And then lastly, I heard. Okay, I don't know if this. Well, I'll see if this fits in this what we're talking about. But I did hear something interesting in the film, and that was she was listening to not, it was only a couple of times, but she was listening to talk radio in her car and she'd shut it off, and you only caught like a few seconds of it. But I heard, I don't know if you've both heard this, but she was listening to talk radio, and at one point the DJ set was talking about polar bear jail.
Yeah.
Did you catch that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I thought they must be talking about Churchill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I turned to Richard and I said, I think that, like, there's no other place in the world that talks about. Yes. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting thing to hear in the movie. So
yeah. All right. Jim, what about you on sound?
There's the piano music. There's an odd credit. It said something like featuring the works of, and the guy's name is Ludovico Einaudi, and I'm gathering he's Italian. Yeah, he is Italian. But I thought it was super tastefully used, and really nice. And again, dynamics. The quiet of the piano sort of offset all the factory noise, and the workplaces were pretty noisy. There's a lot of that sort of kitchen noise or garage noise or warehouse noise. Contrast that with the end scenes when she's actually in their former place of their empire, the town of Empire, their former plant where everybody worked. And there's nothing but silence. It's a silent, quiet place. And I think that contrast was really quite interesting. And then there's all the sort of the natural sounds. How she's shouting into the Badlands or the South Dakotan wilderness. She's shouting Fern, and she's at the seaside,
skinny dipping.
Yeah.
On a mountain.
Yeah. So I thought that was nicely handled. Not quite as bad as those old Kurosawa movies, though. Occasionally there'd be bouts of wind and things like that. Kurosawa movies, especially if they're dealing with poor peasants, it's constant wind, but that's all it is. And then but this one, it was a little bit of weather sound and stuff. So I thought it was really well handled. And not too in your face or anything. It's generally a quiet movie, I think. Interesting. The marquee, I guess, what do you call it? Cameo by the Avengers. She's walking by a movie theater and it says the Avengers out the side, which they are not quiet movies. So that was just a little thing there. But yeah, I thought it was quite well handled. The piano music was really outstanding. I thought really nicely done.
Yeah. For myself, guys, I agree with you. Like it seemed to focus on as much natural in the movie diegetic sound as it possibly could. I mean, it wasn't Christopher Nolan Tenet level, but you're right, Katie. Like at times the external was overpowering the dialogue. I do suspect though that was a conscious choice, or that's the way I read it at the time. They're in a loud place where you can barely hear. It's one of those places where if you're working there, you're like, it's so loud I can't hear myself think. And so I think that was they were trying to. I also, and maybe this is, I'll kind of bridge into the look because I pretty much agree with you guys. Like I did not quite catch the piano notes the way you did, Jim, but I did catch the radio play. It's like polar bear jail. Oh, wonder if Katie will have something to say about that. Well, Katie, catch that play. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say on those types of clips, whenever you're, the characters are generally kind of, maybe liberal a bit. Quite possibly she's listening to NPR, and it always reminds me of Community, the one Halloween episode, and where there's a murderer loose, and it's Shelley, the Christian woman story, and they're playing like death metal, and it's like, okay, it is time for an NPR newscast. Anyways, New York is on fire. The end, and it's just this sort of crazy thing. But I suspect it was NPR.
No, I don't. I disagree. I think it's just that's a great goofball story for any radio. Do you know they have polar bear jails in Canada? Like that. I have no problem hearing that on any goofball redneck right wing obscure corner of Utah radio.
Yeah,
if Curtis Judd is here, maybe he can back me up on that, or be insulted and never visit the stream again.
It wasn't necessarily that one. There's one later on, and it's a couple women talking, and that one sounded to me more like public radio. So
NPR. On that, I'm going to move over into the look because, like I said, other than this minor disagreement, I think we're all on the same page as far as the sound goes, but I think when I'm talking about diegetic, I also want to talk about the look and the naturalism of the piece. Like I felt like I was watching another round again. Supernatural lighting, everything. Like they're not. Now, some of that may have been just driven by budget, but they are using every space. It sounds like it sounds. I suspect they didn't do a lot of ADR. They just rolled with it. It was a lot of handheld, it at all levels, except I don't know if you guys caught it. I felt, and I even in my notes before the movie, I thought it was I bet you this is going to feel cool. Like you see in the, that kind of slight blue tint to everything that you just feel cold when you're watching it. Everything seems cool, and that seemed to bear out in the whole film, even when you're like, I think she should be warm here, but I'm still feeling cold, But otherwise, again, a very naturalistic, and, I get into the politics later. I did feel it was somewhat realistic, like even in their vans and everything. It's like, this isn't, when you see the van life on YouTube, it's a couple or maybe one, but usually a couple, disturbingly attractive. They've kissed off their high-end jobs, so they're able to have high-end income while they're screwing around on their $80,000 retrofit of a Mercedes thing, $100,000, and it's like, and they do bike riding, they do all this stuff, and I'm like, oh wait, I think we're seeing real van life here. Poor people getting by in a piece of, And I appreciated that. I appreciated the whole look of it. Like, I mean, it felt always real and natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Katie?
Yeah, I would agree. And I would be suspicious if they were to do it any differently, because that's, if that's the life that they're living, that's primarily, outdoors. Yeah, it wouldn't seem to fit otherwise. So, I did like the look of it. It was beautiful to watch the scenery of different parts of the U.S. and different times of day and different climates. There was a lot of diverse settings and everything else. But I think that the movie was able to tie everything together seamlessly in a way, even though like she was in cold climates, hot climates, but it all it wasn't. I think it all flowed very well as far as her changing jobs and her locations and everything else. So I think they did a good job of using the natural scene and tying it together that way. So
and letting the natural setting be the star at times without it being feeling like a travel log, eh? Like, Katie, would you agree? You and I have talked a lot about travel-focused advertorials. This felt like it was honest in its portrayal while still kind of I would like to go there. That looks lovely. But I don't think I've been given a...
Yeah, it's not like an induced advertisement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's not a movie about... it's not a travel commercial or anything by any means, but it's definitely pleasant surroundings and natural settings, and I think it helps with different aspects of the movie, like the theme and everything else, for sure.
Jim, what about you on look?
Yeah, I mean, a very there was a couple of really breathtaking shots.
The internet is really not cooperating with us tonight.
Without look like a travel log, but still, showing the land for all of its glory. What I was interested by, and my wife Carla mentioned this as well. It always either seemed to be dusk or dawn, and I could never tell the difference. It's like, are these people getting up early, or are they going to bed early, or is what's happening? But it was always, there was tons of shots. I don't know, maybe Chloe Zhao had a daytime job and she could only film during the golden hour, on either side of the day. But there was one shot that I really loved, and it was when they were looking at Jupiter through the telescope, and it was that sort of, the sky wasn't quite black, pitch black yet. It was that sort of ultramarine or whatever you call it. The gloaming. And they were all, I guess somebody had their rear brake light on or something, and everybody in the foreground was red. So it was just this sort of red on blue. And they're all they were all sort of taken by the wonder of the stars. And I thought that was a really nicely framed, just a nice little moment there.
Well, and a great Dogma 95 moment. We'll just use those lights. That'll provide her fill. We'll be fine.
Yeah, but very red on very blue. It was a really nice shot.
Do you guys think? I'm thinking about even the evening, the either crack of dawn or at night. Is that partly because how do I put this, you guys? Is that partly, I think, because of her working pace? Everything's either happening in the morning or in the evening. Like, she works during a shift. And
that's true,
her whole life as a camper, and we do see some daytime shots, but that's her driving somewhere.
Yeah.
The only time we really see a bright midday light seems to be Are you guys buying that at all? Like
Yeah. Or, I'd have to go back and look, but there's a lot of, it's sort of like when everybody goes to the next place, especially in Arizona. So after everyone leaves in that sort of big parade, and it's just her and Swanky left, they seem to be sort of hanging around, but I think that's because the work I can't remember what was that the Amazon? Anyway.
Not Swanky. Swanky wasn't staying there for work. I think a lot of it was because of her busted wing.
Yes, yeah. But everyone else had gone to the next point, and so it was just Fern and Swanky left, and that was sort of during the day. But I think all the work had moved on.
Yeah.
I would also say too that they didn't shy away. We're always commenting in this house how Corner Gas and Kim's Convenience are both shot in Canada, but there never seems to be a winter there. But in this case, the filmmakers didn't shy away from that kind of bleak Midwestern winter with almost no snow. There's one great shot of Fern sitting on a pile of beets somewhere in Nebraska, and just sort of like everything's the color of beets. The sky's the color of beets. The ground. She's wearing a coat of beets, I think. Probably eating beets, and that's all. And it's just
smiled.
Great.
It's just one beet.
And it's like Manitoba before the snow comes. It's that sort of like that American Midwest winter, non-winter.
Cold, miserable November, but no big snow yet.
Without color, yeah. So they didn't shy away from that. I mean, they made, in terms of the look, I sort of love that part in the first act where she's freezing in the van in Nevada, so much so that and this is a nice thing, that most of the people were kind in the movie, and the gas station operator came up to her and said, not here to hassle you, just letting you know it gets pretty cold. And then the next thing you know, she's driving down to Arizona, and it looks physically, the light is different, and that was a nice reprieve anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you, maybe it's time to catch up with the chat for a bit. In part because, I do believe we have more company. Look at this. Dragon Movie Guy.
Hey, woo.
Okay.
Check it out.
Let's, what?
Nevada flag.
Oh, it's like
Battleborn.
I really do love your very obscure in the deep background. Low resolution.
Yes. Well, you can sort of tell, it's still got the thing in the corner, but that's for a Dragon Movie Guy.
Yeah. Although I was like, if I had my crap together, we all had plates with overlays. But all right, let's. I'm gonna move back. Okay, some of this. Richard had made an earlier comment. I'm gonna save when we're talking about meaning and story. But he is but a third, but he researches like 1,000. All right, James Beaver, new to the show, and it is his first time. Always recommending we should all wash our hands. Which was a thing that came up, which I want to, and actually I think we need to bring this back up again when we're talking theme. Richard Ells. Throughout Nomadland, Matt Foley. Remember that SNL skit, Jim?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
You got to remember Katie? Yep. Throughout Nomadland, Matt Foley's words kept echoing. Study hard in school, kids, or you'll be living in a van down by the river. All right. No advertisements in Nomadland. Dragon Movie says, and more smart remarks from DMG. Now, who wants to order from Amazon? Here's a comment. How is it that she drives all over the western U.S. but never drives through Fargo?
It's close. I think Wall drives South Dakota.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be just a little too, like, her goal was to drive south and then stay as south as she could without being, actually just saying, screw it, I'll move to Arizona or Mexico. Just keep going. All right. That was a quick catch up. Now let's talk about performances. Let's talk about Ms. McDormand. Katie, why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, I think she did an amazing job performing the roles that she did. I don't know if I have a point of reference comparing her to other performances of this type of role. But I guess sometimes with movies like this, not like this, but with characters of a similar nature where they're nomadic, I guess. Other movies sort of will portray them as being very, just out of their mind or crazy or party all the time and just reckless. But this was not the case at all with her performance. And I think she did a great job. And I think it was interesting how, I guess actually I'll keep that comment for the theme, but she did a great job. And I enjoyed the other performances in the movie as well. There wasn't a sore thumb among them. So
what did you think, Katie, of and I get a question to both of you, and this might be a perfect segue from Katie, and then Jim can answer and then continue. What did you guys think of, a number of these people? Linda May actually was a person that the Jessica Bruder, the reporter, met exploring, researching her book. Swanky, another one who was met during the book. What's his name? Bill Wells, Ben Wells,
Bob.
Peter Wells, Bob. Thank you,
Bob Wells.
Bob Wells. Yeah, Bob Wells. What did you think of these folks as far as, because there was a number of people in this movie that were people that the writer had met. What did you think of their performances? Given it is a fictional take,
Yeah, I thought all those performances were incredible, and it did. I think Jim mentioned it earlier, or maybe it was you, Rob. But yeah, it had there were moments where it felt like I was watching a documentary, so that would probably make sense because it was, definitely.
Yeah, there were a couple of scenes, where it was I especially around the campfire, where it's okay, they're basically interviewing these people.
It's like a testimonial. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It still felt real. It fit within the story and everything. But it was, you know what? If you knew that they weren't real actors, it's kind of pejorative, and I don't mean it to be nasty. Mm-hmm. But if you already knew that, then you'd be this is how they're getting this. This is how they're making the scene happen. But if you didn't know, you wouldn't necessarily guess it. What about you, Jim? Why don't you start with the non-pros and then move in? We haven't even mentioned David Strathairn, that bum. Bum. Stick with the non-pros. Move to Frances, and then we'll just ditch David Strathairn.
And it's funny too. One of Strathairn's characters. What's his character's name? Is it Dave? No, it can't be. Anyway, one of
David
Strathairn.
It is Dave. David.
Is it Dave? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
One of his children, I believe, is one of his kids in the movie, and that sort of family scene. But Strathairn and McDormand are both so naturalistic that it fits in nicely with the performances of the found actors. When we watched Bonnie and Clyde, evidently the woman that played Bonnie's mom, she was a local, an untrained actor that they sort of brought in for, and you can sort of tell there. Could you tell with these three, with especially the three with the biggest billing, I guess, Swanky, Linda May, and Bob Wells? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but Swanky delivered a really powerful. I love that name, Swanky. Delivered, and she's credited at the end as Swanky. Like it just says Swanky.
Swanky.
She delivers a really nice monologue, just as Fern and her are about to part, probably for the last time. Just about sort of the meaning of her life and her encounters with birds and wildlife, swallows and pelicans. So it gets a stamp from this ABA member. But
why'd you explain that for people who don't know the ABA is?
American Birding Association. Yes.
Jim is an active birder.
So, a nice little mention there, but she did a really good job on that monologue, and very touching, and it was like the linchpin of the movie, I think, on the character basis. I mean, I think this is one where you can sort of, box the political aspect and just the character study in two different parts. But I thought they did a great. Who else I really liked was the kid who played Derek. And at first, we're so used in these movies to have some sort of, guy who steals something, or, I kept on waiting for something bad to happen.
Another real person.
Yeah.
Derek Enders as Derek. Charlene Swanky as Swanky. Linda May as Linda.
and he, Derek specifically, had that sort of slightly overwhelmed guy who's been on the streets for a while, a sort of a patina, I guess. Like he seemed real, and he seemed, he had his own kind of charm. And another really great scene is when he was saying, "I'd write to this girl, but I don't know what I'd write to her." And right then the teacher, the substitute teacher in Fern, kicks in, and she says, "Oh, well, can I compare thee to a summer's day?" And she sort of goes through a little bit of Shakespeare there, and I thought that was just a really nice moment. But I thought Derek was great. At first, I sort of didn't trust the kid. A little bit smooth, like he's a little bit of the, "Hey, you got a cigarette?" But he turned out to be, and the nice thing about this movie, it was that there was I didn't ever feel that there was a threat in terms of, it didn't ever get rapey, even though she was traveling by herself. It didn't get, there wasn't any threat of crime. There wasn't a traditional antagonist. So you sort of could take your time with the movie and just watch how things unfolded. A little bit for me, if you remember back to the old computer game.
Well, you could still be worried about it, which I think is enough.
Yeah, but but it wasn't. By the end of the movie, Carl and I were saying, "Uh-oh," and
I think we're getting into a bit of story now.
Yes, sorry, but anyway, great performances across the board.
Okay,
how about
myself? Yeah, you guys have covered it. Like, again, as much as I can't recommend this movie, you know what? It is a very well done movie. Great performances, and it is nice to see, And this is hats off to both the performers and the director and McDormand to be able to, pull a natural performance out of people who are playing themselves, and that's that's a tough thing to do, because usually then people, I went to the store, like, and to be able to do that is impressive for all of them, Quick shout out, first of all. Just want to say, Mr. Judd, he showed up after my cheap shot on Redneck Radio in dark corner of Utah.
Uh-oh.
So I'm feeling like, I got saved from that. Is there anything else? Have we missed anything on performance? Like, in so many ways, this is such a well done film. yeah, it's almost, there's not a lot to criticize. Even David Strathairn was great, and he wasn't at any time pulling like no scenery chewing, no, all super reserved. Again, much like when we're talking about in The Look, guys, letting the scenery speak for itself, letting them just be. Which is, and doing their thing, which was enough, I think.
Yeah. No, he was a little bit. I mean, the nice thing about a nice note about his performance, he was a little bit vulnerable. Like, you didn't have to shout, that kind of, a little bit of a wounded puppy dog kind of thing. And I thought the dynamics with him and his family were interesting too. Like when his son comes to visit him. And she says, "Yeah, how's the burger?" And he goes, "It's okay. Just say you like the burger, dude." But you could sort of tell that this guy,
anyone can make a burger.
Yeah, exactly.
But without it being like high drama, like Katie, I think when she was Katie, when you were talking about it early in your first thoughts, it's not big and loud and extreme. None of the performances are like that. It is not shot that way. It is not the soundtrack, the sound design is not that way. It really is kind of a low key in the best possible way film. We're getting
and I liked that.
Complain about. Oh, go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I liked how they included, perhaps the way they went about it from. A union perspective is questionable, but I like how they, how these people, how they had these people in the film, like Linda May and everyone else, versus putting A-list celebrities in those roles. I think it made it feel a bit more, as genuine, I guess. So
yeah, I don't on the union. Heck, I've had a union role in a real movie. It's easy to sign off on that. We don't want to pay union wages because it got nothing to do with using because that's happened a lot. It's about paying a permit, working within the collective agreement. Yeah, they could have hired all those people and still been within a collective agreement. They all just become permittees. That's how I got it. I became an ACTRA apprentice member because I got hired for an ACTRA gig. ACTRA said, yeah, sure, we'll sign off on that permit. There's an extra fee and you're within the collective agreement, so we don't care, Yeah, they could have done that all. Sorry to jump on that. God damn it, that bugs me, about this whole, and it's not, and let's, why don't we jump into story while I kind of chill out, and then we'll get into the meaning of it all, where I rip this movie a new one. That said, as far as the story blocks go, it's got a beginning, got a middle, got an end. Katie, you'd mentioned it did not have a particular climax that you felt was, and now the movie is ending. Where would you point at the moment where everything turns and you start to kind of go, okay, we're moving to the denouement? I
would kind of use the analogy. It felt like, you put the boiling frog in the water and you don't really realize that it's, the frog doesn't realize it's
getting killed.
And because it sets up, it happens gradually. So that's kind of what it was like for me. And I found myself, as the movie was going on, something would happen and it would make me think of something else that happened previously. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. Like, just with the decisions that she made. And then I even thought about it afterwards. And it was one of those things where I found myself thinking back, something would happen and then I think back on something else that happened before that. And then I'd kind of retrace my steps that way. So, so I think it was a lot of, part of the reason maybe why I have a hard time finding a climax is because she kind of made a lot of the same decisions. So I think just the repetitiveness of it kind of led her to celebrating New Year's by herself again. So I don't think you agree with me, though.
No, I do think there is actually she starts, I think, from a position of, I want a regular job and I want to stick close to home. It is circumstance that forces her down the road. And even when she first meets the RTR, what do they call themselves? Those rendezvous?
Rubber tramp. RTR, what is it again? I just read about
rubber
it.
Tramp, road runner,
railway or something.
Yeah. I think
I'll look it up.
I think what's going on here, Katie, and this is not to disagree with you. I think really it's so she's got her want. She wants to stay home. She wants to stay near home, and she wants a regular job, but circumstances forcing her. But you see at the beginning of the movie where she's rather disconnected. She kind of walks through the crowd, but she at no time up to in the first half of the movie, when somebody says, you should come join us here, she doesn't acknowledge the question, or she says, no, I don't want to. And then later just shows up. It's like the Walgreens. It's Walgreens, right?
Yep.
For those of you who've been there.
Wall drug.
Wall drug. Thank you. Yeah. Wall drug. Like I could get you a gig, and she's, yeah, okay. And she just turns. I think by the end, so there may be a physical circle, but there's kind of an approach here that at the end, her need, which is to accept her life as it is now, that I think that's part of her internal need is, let go of the want and kind of roll with what's going on here. And because there's, and this will get into my complaining later, but I think it's kind of a journey of healing and, redefining one's life. And I think so when you see her at the end, maybe doing the same things, but there's more kind of, she in a way is making these choices, not reacting, but, kind of rolling with it. A bit more of a kind of Zen hippie kind of thing. Did you feel that at all by the end, or?
I feel like I agree with you, but I think she was like, the way her life unfolded, throughout that year, it was, you're saying she wanted to stay close to home in the beginning, and that's true, but she wanted to stay close to home on her own terms, which most of us would. But there were opportunities available to her throughout the film that she just didn't take, and she just kept repeating the same decisions because for instance, like she saw the woman in the store with her kids. Oh, you can stay with us for a while. No, I'm good. She goes to her sister's place. You can stay. No, I'm good. You can come. You can. Then David Strathairn's character. You can stay here. No, I'm good. She wanted things on her own terms, and then at the end of the movie when she's talking with I forget the gentleman's name with the beard.
Bob Wells.
She said to him that if it wasn't for her husband, she would not have stayed in Empire. So, which I didn't actually really buy that. So I just think she wanted to do things on her own terms, and she just kept repeating the same decisions because she didn't want anyone's help. She didn't want to ask for help or receive from anyone other than money that she insisted that she'd pay back. So for me, it was maybe, I didn't see the climax because she did not take those opportunities that were available to her. And she could have even just for a short time, but
did she, within the film, did she need to? Like, I don't think this is a movie ever about her getting out of this scenario. Like, it wasn't, her choices were true to her character. And again, I'll complain about it later as far as the meaning goes. I think storytelling wise, it's not an unreasonable thing for a character to kind of go, yeah, I don't want that. As you said, she wants to live it on her terms. And so throughout the movie, but I do think she does change to a degree in coming, let's say maybe becoming more connected with her nomad self.
Yeah, or just coming to terms with it and accepting it, because it's been a year.
You know, but yeah, you maybe like it'd be interesting to dig a little deeper in this and see if they're, take another look at that circle. But yeah, I don't think we're watching a slice of life movie, not a hero's journey narrative where they returned but changed. I think it really is more of a you know what, and that's been said by the filmmakers, it's a character study of a woman. You know, imagine a woman, sorry guys, apparently a battery's run out and I'll have to fix that. But I think that makes sense to me. Jim, I'm going to throw it over to you now. Why don't you talk about story?
Sure. Well, in terms of climax, I thought that there was kind of an interesting one. If this was any other kind of movie, genre movie, I think it for me, it was almost chilling, and I'm sort of overplaying this a bit, but when she goes to visit Dave's family, she sees his van, and it's sort of looking a little forsaken. It's got tarps on it. It's sort of parked to the side of the lot as if it's disused. And later on, she says, your van has a flat. And he said, oh yeah, I'll take care of it. And she goes, no, really, it's got a flat. You need to deal with that. That was almost like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers moment. Like, he's one of them. He's a civilian. You know, he's
who we're talking about.
This is when
Strathern's son.
No. When Fern goes to visit Dave at his son's house and sees his van has been abandoned, basically, and she sort of says to him, it's that point in the movie, if it was a horror movie, that you realize that Dave was a vampire or something. I'm being a little facetious, but it was just that, okay, this is what differentiates us. I can't stay here. I'm going to go sleep out in the van. And it was that, I think, that sort of, she recognized a little more who she was. I mean, she was a little bit squirrely in the sister's house as well. But I should say, too, the whole section at the sister's house was quite interesting in that they had what would be a potentially, kind of a snobby sister, a picture perfect house, the businessman husband, and that could have been a
some
traditional
of the classic gags.
Yeah, and you just have them at each other's throats. But at the end, she comes and says, you were eccentric to some. I thought you were braver than most. And when you left, it left a big hole. And I thought that was where a lesser movie might have used that as a dividing, would have turned that into an argument. They didn't. It was some real talk there. I don't normally notice things like hairstyles, but Frances McDormand, she had her sort of messy shortcut, or I don't know if you would call it a pixie cut necessarily, but when you contrasted it to the sisters, who was very coiffed and had almost that sort of bob or whatever, that was a big character distinction. I thought the way they presented themselves to the world, that was quite good. But I really did like the section with the sister. But yeah, for me, the climax would have been when she realized that Dave was done. Even though she was quite stubborn about embracing him, she realized he was done, and she was like, yeah, I'm going to hit the road anyway. See ya. And so that for me, that was kind of a neat little parallel, and almost chilling too. When you saw like the shot of the van, you went, uh-oh, Dave's turned. So Anyway,
living this regular life like a
he's a civilian. Yeah,
he's a civilian,
exactly.
not what. And this is where I think we can almost jump into theme here, because it is something that bugs the living crap out of me. Not to deny, like, I mean, and you get this weird thing where do you want to deny the character agency? And I don't want to, but I'm just not buying some of this, this turning what is a horror story, an economic horror story that real people lived, into this woman, because I think it's a story about a woman finding herself, coming to terms with who she really is, living the nomad life, living the RTR life. And it's like, you know what? If I was just stuck in the movie, I didn't know the rest of the world, I'd be like, yeah, I'm buying this and it's inspiring and all that stuff. And I think this is where we bring ourselves to the movie and we're kind of fucking bullshit. And it's so well done. Like, it's not as bad as, do you guys remember when we watched, that Rob Ford movie, The Mayor?
Run This Town?
Thank you. And I found the character, the writer character, that the reporter character created almost like to be offensive. And then you look, and that's exactly what the writer did. Oh, my brother had a bad experience, so I'm writing a character for revenge. And so I really had a problem with the character. I think here, Zhao and McDormand created a much more realistic character, so I have a harder time saying it's unrealistic, but it still bugs the living shit out of me. Yeah, I don't know.
Just that divorcing it from the economic realities and stuff.
Well, and I think we'll get into the meeting, but we got some new people in the chat that I first want to welcome. Sean from Lost in the Reel.
Woohoo!
But before we leave story, Katie, now that we've all had a chance to chat about it, I want to make sure that I understand where you're coming from, though. It sounds like why you don't see an arc in this is you don't really think she changed much. She really just went through the motions of her life, said no, and then, oh, look, we're in Empire, going over the detritus of her former life without any... And that's oversimplifying what I think you're trying to say. But am I getting close to what you were saying? Like, I want to make sure I understand this.
Yeah, I guess she might have changed a bit, but I think that it's just, I think, just more of a realization. I think she did change. I guess she did change, but I think it was just more of a realization. Maybe not a realization for her, but a realization for me, how flawed she is, baby. She, in the beginning, I thought when I was watching this, and I see some comments talk about her circumstances in the beginning, saying that she didn't have a choice. I think she did have a choice, and I think she had choices throughout the film. And I guess when we get to theme, I can maybe parse out why I think that's the case. So,
you know what? Let's keep rolling then.
Okay, then.
I do think, though, finish your thought. Let's dive into the chat to kind of catch up with them, and
Sure.
then we'll continue. Let's. We're in the meeting now, but let's make sure we capture some of what folks are saying in the chat. Because this is probably the perfect time to at least get these up, and so they're in our brain. DMG says, I doubt any, in caps, of the Amazon workers got paid union wages. No, they didn't. They kept on taking the wage that they were being paid. Although, from what I understand, this is shot just before, like, Bernie Sanders had been on Amazon about paying a better wage, and they got this shoot in just before Amazon said, okay, well, we'll pay everyone $15 an hour, which I think is an interesting note. Richard says, it was interesting. We were watching this film only a few days after the big union vote. And Bessemer, Alabama. Kept thinking back to that as he was watching. DMG says, and this is on the story stuff and probably float right into meaning, Fern's choices to DMG, Fern's choices are about agency. Beginning of the film, she's stuck. She has no choice of the lifestyle. End of the film, she has options, but chooses the lifestyle. Okay. And Katie, though, I think what you had said was you felt she did have choices at the beginning. You want to quickly speak to that again?
Yeah, I think that I didn't realize at the beginning when I watched it, though. It seemed to me like she didn't have a choice. But as the movie went on, and I realized the opportunities that were being offered to her, she didn't take them. That it made me think back to her in the beginning, and I thought, well, I think she did have a choice. She could have, stayed with that woman who, offered. And it's not like the woman said, you can live with me for 2 years or whatever. Like, it was just like, do you need to stay with me for a bit? And she just, she turned down, that was a choice, and she didn't take it. And I think, who knows, maybe it's just my own lived experience of my connection to family, but, it seemed like she had a sister that was well off. So, she could have stayed with her for a bit, but again, chose not to. And I guess if we're gonna, I can shift to the meaning a bit. I think that, and I do agree with DMG that yes, she chose that life, that she didn't take those offers because she was choosing this lifestyle, this nomad lifestyle. But I would argue that, the meaning and the themes that I was seeing throughout the movie is obviously grief because she lost her husband, but also no matter what circumstances, whether she was by herself or with a group of people, to me, she felt alone all the time. She was even being with lots of people, even with one-on-one, it just like, she just had this distance, just like briefly patting the dog or like just jetting when somebody confronts her. It's almost like she was, she chose the lifestyle she did, like DMG said. To me, it's because she was trying to chase some sort of high that wasn't there. And the very few moments, and also, okay, I'm going all over the place, but I'll just end on this, is that the lifestyle she chose, she still was not happy with it. I didn't see that she was happy. The very few times I did see that she was happy was, she seemed happy when she was checking out that RV, that really like high end, with her couple of her girlfriends. They were really like, wow, a washer and dryer in.
That was a good scene.
Yeah. And it's like that, like you're not choosing that lifestyle. And I'm not saying she could get that RV, obviously, but like those comforts of home, she was choosing not to have those. She was choosing not to have the washer and dryer, the comforts of home. She seemed like she had some sort of peace when she was holding the baby. Again, just like, it's almost like she was fearful of change or something. Like, I don't know. But so to me, the meaning was, grief in the beginning, losing her husband, loneliness throughout, choosing this lifestyle. And I guess the third meaning would be unhappiness, because to me, she felt like she was unhappy as a nomad. But then when there's an opportunity, she had like an open ticket to stay with this guy and his family. in California, and she didn't take it because I think she just was afraid of change and thought maybe, and continuing on her journey being a nomad would make her happy. But I didn't really see her happy in that lifestyle. So
you know what? I'm not sure she ever. I don't think she was ever looking for happiness. You know what I mean? Like, was she? Yeah, I don't think this was a. Yeah, in no way did I ever think she was searching for or wanting happiness. You're right, Katie. I think she was avoiding connection. Her last deep connection was her husband, and even near the end, as she was describing I think it was Swanky, as she was cutting Swanky's hair, and I'm like, is it gonna get weird with the clippers? And she's like holding her thumb on the morphine drip or whatever, the pain, something, and it was like, yeah, I think I disagree with you in that, like in any of these character studies, you got to kind of, the character, at best, I think we could say that she felt she was her, and this is almost that stereotype of, I want to work. I'm a proud person who wants to work, and I will pay my own way. But also, Katie, so at the beginning, I could even see her thinking, well, this is the only option I have. And it gets too effing cold, and she's got to go south, and. Mm-hmm. But by the end, she's like, no, this is what I like. Or maybe not like, because, yeah, you're right. Like, there's no happiness. She has moments of joy.
It's just what she's comfortable with. Like, she's obviously not comfortable with, like, chain, like, like.
I don't think it's changed, though. Like, I mean, she goes through quite a radical life change in the year. Like, you look at Moments of Peace, and there's naked floating in a creek. I think this is someone who kind of come to peace with the fact she really does. She's just fine being alone.
Yeah.
She's become a crusty old bird who would really,
maybe that's why she doesn't want to
I think,
to stay.
You mentioned earlier, Katie. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
You mentioned earlier, Katie, the New Year's Eve part of it, and I thought there was an interesting distinction, and I don't think it's anything you could probably measure, but that first New Year's that she was crouched in the van. I think it was still winter where she was, and she had her little thing on her little, I don't know, tiara or whatever that says Happy New Year, and it was depressing. Like she was boiling some instant noodles or something, and it looked really depressing. The second New Year's, she actually seemed a little bit different. And again, she was still alone, but she was looking a little bit more hopeful, or I don't know if it was true happy, but she was sort of saying hi to her neighbors and stuff. And I think there's a subtle change in that from one New Year's to the next. Again, she wasn't. I think she's, from a character point of view, she's one of those people that gets a little bit squirrely whenever she is beholden to anybody. I don't know. I've known people like that before. She just didn't want to be go stay when you're sort of beholden to them a little bit, and I think that just made her nervous. But I think she seemed stronger that second. It could have just been that she was in a good mood that night, but she had a little sparkler and she was saying Happy New Year to people. Very subtle, but I think it was, when you contrast that first New Year's, that was like, whoa, depressing. I think
where she's incompetent.
And she seemed to be in a better place. Yeah, she's walking tall and at the same time maintaining her distance, because that's probably who she was. And she didn't mention having, not a family. She's got a family of her own. She's got a sister that she's not really in contact with. They didn't really talk about many friends by name in Empire or Nevada. I got the sense that either the network had dissipated or there wasn't one. She might have just been one of those people that it was a dyad, her and her husband.
The town had disappeared. Like it.
Yeah.
Within a year, or not within a year, within months, it lost its zip code. I think the whole town went to the Four Winds. You know, any friends you had, you know, even when she runs into that, the woman and her two daughters, and the one she tutored, you know, it's like you could see. I think the character was honestly surprised at, you know, what? I didn't expect to see anyone I know here. Oh my God, I have to talk to you now. I'm gonna cut in here quickly just to kind of. I've been holding back this whole goddamn show. I need to rant.
Here it comes.
I need to rant. I need to rage.
It's a hot take coming.
Oh, more than one. Although there's a part of me, there's a part of me thinking this isn't. In a way, here's my effing hot take, you guys. As far as I'm concerned, this movie is kind of a disturbing hot take on, you know, this mythologizing and romanticizing of poverty and of disconnection, of human disconnection. And this is, I think, Katie, where you and I finally overlap on our view of this character. It's like, this is not a woman to be praised. Hot take.
Yeah, I agree.
What bothers me so much about this film, guys, is, which is why, like, it's such a good movie, but to strip it, and you got to remember, some of these characters, like Linda May, like Amazon specifically, let's just talk about Amazon alone. Linda May, Swanky, like, they're quoted in Bruder's book as saying, yeah, we're basically a mobile, disposable slave workforce for Amazon. They break bones, they get hurt on the job, and they're effed. And the filmmakers decided, no, what we really need to do is just let's look at this one woman who's discovering herself as a nomad, like this is some noble pursuit. And it's like, you're amongst a bunch of people who are suffering. And if they, like, I mean, even when Strathern gets sick, what is it, ventriculitis? Diverticulitis, thank you. And there's a part of me going, how did he pay for that?
Yeah,
like,
that's what I thought,
you know,
too.
Like,
I was thinking
come on. Like, how many of these people, when they get hurt, like, I mean, Swanky with her broken wing, you know, and it's like, yeah, you're hooped, you know, and even she is nagging, you know, there's that great, I mean, it's a great character moment, you know, you gotta be self-reliant, you gotta be able to take care of yourself, and it's like, you're not in the Wild West. This isn't the Oregon Trail. This is a modern country, still the richest country on the planet, and there they are shitting in buckets. And no analysis, not once. There's a hint, 20 minutes in, Bob Wells kind of starts talking about market forces, and then, we got to lean into it. And all I'm thinking is, I'm not hearing, either he's an idiot, and I don't think he is, but we're not hearing him actually, somebody who's gone, you know, as part of this scene, kind of analyzing why they're there. I find it hard to believe that not one conversation amongst these people was like, yeah, corporate America ditched us. We're doing this. And in part, even a cultural critique, you know, to go to what you were talking about, Katie, in these choices she's making, a chunk of them is character, like, unique to, say, Fern. But some of that is also that BS, accept no help, you can't take help. Help comes with strings, and you know, then it means you've given up and all that other stuff. Because, like, I mean, there's a moment, are you giving up on me? No. You know, and that's kind of, these are the things that are, this whole idea of you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps is celebrated, I think, in this movie in a disturbing way. Like, this is the meta narrative, the real meaning of the goddamn piece. With these people that are obviously not thriving and pulling themselves, they're barely getting by. They're gracefully degrading. These people die in their vans. They die, it's kind of, we're given a hint that, there's some family that will take them in. And I'm like, I'm not sure about that. Like, I mean, it's almost like it celebrates the disconnection. It celebrates the atomization of family and of community. No comment whatsoever. No comment of how did the whole town disappear in 6 months? Right, because it depends on one employer who probably had to be coaxed in there. How is it that this woman, who sounds like she's worked at regular jobs for a number of years, has no savings? Is it perhaps because her husband was sick and she had to take care of him, and that sucked all the savings, and all she's got left are, senior citizens benefits, and she can't do early retirement, and no discussion of it. And yes, it's a character piece, but I think you can do a character piece within a context. But to ignore it is actually to do the character a disservice. Why is she the way she is? If you don't even hint at it, I gotta call bullshit on this movie. And there's a part of me that thinks some of the reason they're not criticizing people. Yes, this rant continues, and here's another hot take. Heck, I want to hear the hot take. Here's another hot take for you.
Sure.
I really do believe the reason Amazon is never criticized, that the best they can do is good money, which is bullshit. It's the opposite of good money. Oh, good money. What, they pay for your $300 a week? $300 a week to park in a shitty lot. Park your van in a lot. That's company store pricing. They pay for that. Who cares? They're bullshit camper force crap, which is a real thing, and I will link this in not the description because I only found out about it today, folks. Bruder, the woman who wrote the book, this is a movie's inspired by, based on, however you want to describe it. She actually did a 16-minute short film about camper force. Well worth the watch. The link will be pinned in a comment later. Okay, anyway, but here's my hot take. I think Zhao played especially soft on Amazon because they really wanted that shot. And there's my hot take.
Yeah.
They wanted to be in that. They wanted to be in that location. It was important to them to be in that location. Amazon is important to these people, this camper force, and it's like, well, we can't criticize them, and we really want the shot.
Yeah.
Damn it, that deserves another hot take.
And what streaming service did you watch this on? It wasn't Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
It was Disney.
But even Disney, because if you look at Disney's Logline, I did not use it. I wrote my own, like cobbled together from, I always take a bit of inspiration from IMDb and that, but they're like, a story of resilience and hope. What hope? This is like, Katie, to your point, she ends up still alone in a crappy van, slightly better, more competent being on the road. And I don't want to strip the woman of agency, like of being okay with that life. And some of these people, heck, you ask anyone, hey, what's good about your life right now? You go into one of those fucking modern day Hoovervilles, they're going to go, well, I do like this. I like this. I like this. Notwithstanding this one character who probably would say, oh, and I'll keep doing this no matter what changes. Every other one would probably go, oh no, if I could get just a regular gig and a stable gig that managed my PTSD, I could get proper health care out of, the vast majority of them would. You're asking people in a stress situation, what do you like about it? Not, I saw one interview where the guy starts with, I always found the road romantic. It's like, I wanted to reach through the YouTube screen and just wring the actor's neck. So this is why. And then on top of it all, to use a non-union crew, to not pay these people a union wage. You're going to make good money. The good money is being made by a lot of people off this movie. And all of it, like right now, if they decide to, out of the kindness of their hearts, share residuals with these people, these non-actor actors, just not fucking buying it. They're going to be screwed like most actors get screwed. Oh, you got 1% of the net profit, which means nothing. If this was a SAG after gig, those actors, because they did the job, they would be paid the rates and get the residuals. Heck, for a brief bit, they'd have access to fucking healthcare.
Yeah.
You know?
So part of the problem.
Bullshit. Yeah. Which is, now there you go. This is why I've been holding back for a while. This is why I cannot recommend this movie. It makes me sick. Like, I mean, and I know this is in some of the same country that the trial of the Chicago 7, where the politics of that was stripped out. But I think this is disturbingly, almost cruel to romanticize working poor people's lives, never once let them analyze why they're there. You know, they get to, even in that fireside part in the interview, it's like any other BS TV interview. How does it make you feel? You know what? The victims of this economic crisis never are allowed to analyze why they're there. Never asked, why do you think this happens? Do you think the government has anything to do with it? Just let them analyze their situation. No, it's only about their personal experience. That they are bound within that box, and the filmmaker chooses the rest of it. And Chloe Zhao, and now here's another hot take. This is what you get when you have a film made by someone who grew up rich. Hot take. Because she did. She, comes from an affluent, a very rich home, went to upscale,
boarding
it is.
School.
All the usual suspects, Hollyoak, like all those snooty, Ivy League or Ivy League adjacent liberal arts colleges, right? Frances McDormand, now it looks like she grew up poor, but she's been a successful actress. Her and her husband have been making movies forever. She's a rich person now. She even had here's a hot take from Frances. I'm sorry, guys, I'm really monopolizing it. I can't help myself. But what did Frances say? Oh, Frances, here's a classic. All right, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here it is. This is in a Vulture, and I will pin a link to this Vulture story. But in McDormand's recent Vogue cover story, she reveals Fern was an emanation of a fantasy she had in her 40s, telling her husband, filmmaker Joel Cohen, "When I'm 65, I'm changing my name to Fern. I'm smoking Lucky Strikes, drinking Wild Turkey. I'm getting an RV and hitting the road." And she's the one who optioned the movie, et cetera, hired Zhao. And this is the thing. She's got, and going back to what you said, Jim, that one of the times she's happy, and you can see Frances McDormand going vroom, vroom, vroom. But here's the thing. Frances McDormand can afford that ride. This is a fantasy for a rich person to live like a hobo. No, these people have to. For cultural and economic reasons. Bullshit. Anyway. What do you guys think? I'm done with my swearing Marxist rant. But hey, on Left Flicks and Chill tomorrow morning, 10:30, more of the same on Twitch. Sorry.
It's going to be one of those things
and I just couldn't.
Well, yeah, I think some of those elements might have come out in her portrayal of her character. I think that unlike everybody else in the film, she still had, I think her character still had maybe not a lot, but some agency compared to all the other characters. So yeah, so I would do, yeah. Well, of course I agree with a lot with what you said in your rant. But yeah, no, another interesting thing I noted was when she was with, I guess she ran into Derek again, and she asked him like about his family, and does she think that they're worried about him? And I thought to myself, that could apply to you as well. It doesn't matter that you're older than him. So yeah, we're all flawed. We're all flawed people. But I thought her character was flawed in a few different ways. One was of which that I think she had some choice, some agency, and compared to everybody else in the film, maybe she wasn't looking for happiness, but as her end goal. But no, I think I saw moments. I did see moments of. But I did see moments where she was happy, and it wasn't from being a nomad by any means, I don't think.
It's interesting you say that. Like, I mean, the moments of joy she did have were with other people. Like Linda May, like her best road buddy. Like,
yeah, and I think she seemed like she was going to miss her when they parted ways. Like, no. She wasn't standoffish like when she was with the dog or whatever.
Big hug.
Yeah, so I think maybe she just has like not a fear of change, but like a fear of connection with others, because then she might lose them, right? So like she did with her husband.
I'm not sure we have okay, when you're saying that, is there something about the way the character was unfolded, something we saw that would lead you to that? Or is it I'm trying to explain why this character is this way? This might be why the character is this way.
I'd say the latter, I guess.
Yeah. Jim, anything else you want to, like, I know I'm impressed with Katie. It's like, wow, I still have some, Rob left some air.
There's some wind in these sails. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just excited for left flicks and chill tomorrow morning. There's going to be a clock. It's going to be like a time thing, and there's going to be a clock behind Rob and a candle. He's going to and another thing, and you see the clock hands move and the candles burn down.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But no, I mean, first I was actually unaware that it wasn't a union-made picture, and
yeah, I was as well.
That's a good note. I mean, there's a lot of backlash now, which is usually, I mean, sometimes around this time it could be that Oppo research, kind of Academy Award, bullshit in part of the race and everything. But actually, there was a Globe and Mail article last weekend, a too honest report on Nomadland's Chloe Zhao, the most fascinating filmmaker of the moment. But and he just sort of goes over some of the stuff going on. But yeah, no, I when you're not sort of contributing, then you're part of the problem, right? And it's funny that you mentioned the healthcare, for instance. I think Swanky is now 78 in real life, and she I read something on her, and she's off meds. She didn't actually break her arm, so she's in fairly good shape. But at the same time, these people could probably use some healthcare. They're not getting younger, so. But yeah, no, that is a depressing note that they couldn't seem to fit that in. So.
In a cruel joke, yeah.
Well, you know what? I think this is a great time now to kind of catch up with the chat, because now we're, to quote Sean, oh boy, a Rob rant. DMG follows up with, Katie's right. Hot takes. Told you there'd be some hot takes in this one. It'll all be from my big mouth. Okay. Now, here we've got, we'll take it right from the top here. Richard L. says, reminds me of street people who often, quote, choose, close quote, to live on the streets when offered a home. The personalities we have that drive our decisions are often shaped by non-chosen, rotten contexts. And I'm wondering if some of that is, one of the things none of us have brought up, say for Fern, and this is dipping into now I'm going to contribute one where I'm like, I don't think we saw it, although maybe we did see it, guys. A lot of folks who are living on the street, choosing to, have significant mental health issues. They have a hard time living somewhere else because they're the rules that are required to. And I'm wondering if some of Fern, and again, I don't think we saw evidence of it, but could we reasonably infer that part of Fern being where she is maybe a mental health issue from grief or like, I mean, that's, I think I'm kind of putting that in there, but I just want to throw it out to you guys. Mm-hmm. And of course the chat.
That wasn't especially, broached. And the sister does describe her as eccentric. So when they were younger, so that could mean any number of things, really. But she learned at a young age to sort of hold people at bay, like the Fern character. So,
Okay. Katie, anything you wanted to add to that, or? Yeah, I'm already starting to kind of step back from my psychoanalysis. I just.
That could be it. Obviously, it's not made readily apparent, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Mm-hmm. DMG says, keep in mind, Fern's husband, pre-killed, Fern's town, pre-dead, Fern's house, pre-evicted. All this stuff happens before the movie starts. So her journey starts off already at the bottom. Only way out is up. You know what, DMG, and you guys feel free to add in. There's that up arc, starting at the bottom, kind of a rags to riches tale, rags to a new, here I think it's rags to slightly more rags, slightly better rags. Like there's an up, but it is competence and acceptance of this life, notwithstanding my rant. But I'm wondering if that's kind of what we're seeing here. I do take what DMG is saying, though. What do you guys think?
Yeah, rags to building a special shelf where you can put your rags in that folds nicely into the side of the vehicle.
Good one.
Hot take. That's a great hot take. Comedy hot take.
Yeah. I mean, I have actually a little off topic. I have a slight confession to make. I took some of the people that we know from this, from our YouTube streaming, and knowing where they, lost in the reel. And I was like, how far does Curtis live from Empire, Nevada? And how far does Lost in the Reel live? And this place is in the middle of nowhere. Like, everyone seemed to be 6 or 7 hours away, no matter where. I mean, these guys are all sort of in the, if I can say,
DMG says,
in the
like
western.
Our man in the chat from Nevada says there's not much in northern Nevada. And Empire was good point, was an hour north of Reno, which is already tiny.
Yeah. So, by the way, I'm going to use that.
I just love the fact that we have people in the chat. We can say, it's like, no, I have local geographic knowledge.
Yeah. I'm going to use that 89405 now if I'm ever asked for a zip code for any whatever quiz or anything like that. So I did check, and like, it's nowhere. In terms of agency, she seemed to want to stay there, and The human resources person at the start just said, "Yeah, no, good luck to you." I mean, yeah. So
she wants go retire, go put yourself in a box and die.
And I think another thing that I sort of wonder too is if Fern's choice here is she's just waiting for her, maybe the 2 or 3 years until she turns 65 or whatever her magic number is before she can start collecting. Like she just is holding it back so it can accrue whatever. I don't know how big it is,
but she can get full retirement benefits versus the 60 plus.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't describe it as either permanent or temporary. I took it as like this is a permanent thing for her, but it may just be a matter of years that she has to live like this, and so that might be another aspect of the story. I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. I think much like my psychosizing her, is sort of like let's come up with reasons she's this way, where there's no evidence in the text. And there's some foreshadowing for you folks. We got a great Does It Hold Up show next month with another special guest, perhaps an academic. Anyway.
What?
What? Okay. Richard L. says, certainly choice and personality drive her story arc, but go back in time and change crappy economic circumstances or provide adequate social safety net, and you might have an entirely different story. Couldn't agree more, Richard. Chime in if you think Richard's talking out of his ass. But I wanted to get to this comment, though. Richard L. says, Rob, to play devil's advocate, do you think the movie maybe exposes the conditions of these modern nomads in the hope it'll raise the sort of questions you do? I'm going to say no. It's a great question, Richard. I'm going to say no, and here's my rationale why I think no. They were avoiding things here because they didn't want to talk about them. And I think when it isn't even referred to, people won't go to a political analysis. That's not standard. We'll do what, like victim blaming is not a thing that is just applied. Like victim blaming is a very human thing we all do. And I think most will go, what's Fern's problem? What are these people's problems? Oh, he's got PTSD. That's why he can't hold a job. Like that. I think that's what, if you don't provide an alternate explanation, even just hint at it, like to only talk about the circumstances without really talking about the circumstances, they're leaving stuff out. Again, how did Dave pay his hospital bill? It seems like it was, he had this, so we had some surgery. And then he got out, went back to... went to his sons, so I'm going to say no, but I'm going to go to Katie first. Katie, what do you answer Richard's question? And then we'll come to you, Jim. Every time I said you guys, it's like a delay. And then it's like, anyway, Katie. Do you think the movie maybe exposes the conditions of these modern nomads in the hope it will raise the sort of questions that I did?
Well, it certainly exposed conditions that I wasn't aware of in the U.S., like on that level. But upon reflection, I wasn't overly surprised, maybe. But I think. Yeah, so it may raise questions to the viewer, but I find in my, and I'm guilty of it as well, is that if it does, it would be for the short term. I think that we'll see something like that. It will affect us in some way, negative emotionally, but then, we turn off the TV and go to bed. Like it sounds terrible, but
this film has no call to action. Like part because it's stripped of its politics. Like it's half of a story. Like I'm going to move now to Jim. Thank you very much, Katie.
Yeah.
Before I just go back
Sure.
to my rant. I will, though, folks, rest assured, I may even cut my rant out and put it up as a separate video, but there will be time code. Rob rant here. Okay, Jim. Okay, Richard's question. I'll throw it up on the screen one more time.
Sure.
Do you think the movie maybe exposes the conditions of these modern nomads in the hope? Oh, and this is, you know what? This is kind of are the filmmakers hoping this? I even got an answer for that. But do you think they are presenting it so it raises the questions that I rose? Yeah, rose. Sure. Or raised. I don't know.
I mean,
Getting caught in tense there. You're the writer, Jim. Correct my English.
sorry, I'm concentrating on the question, but I'll put it into the show notes. Yeah, I mean, again, this is a movie without an antagonist except for the system, and it's one of those things. It's like when people say, often.
That's a great point, Jim.
In the past, people would say, just newspaper articles, they would describe a car accident, and they'd say, oh, it was a car accident, implying that nobody was at fault, implying that these are things that just happened. So the plant shutting down is something that just happened. It was something like out of Prime Video's Tales of the Loop, the Manitoba Shot sort of dystopic future kind of thing. Like it just, when she's walking around the gypsum plant at the end there, and it just, this is a thing that happened. And with all the other things too, when you the system is the antagonist, but it's completely off screen at all times and not even referred to.
I would even say that's maybe part of the problem. And coming back to Katie, your comments earlier, because it isn't an antagonist, what is she fighting? I want to, it could have been a much more interesting film. If, again, some context, and all of a sudden you kind of go, she's not just struggling against herself, her own choices, her own acceptance of her scenario. There might be a kind of, wait a sec, we're getting effed here. That could have been part of what she accepts, this wasn't my fault. I'm not poor because I'm a bad person. I'm poor because of circumstances beyond my control. I do want to say, coming back, I do have something to add to my answer. And I forgot about this. Here's another comment from Vulture. Just a sec here. Let me get it. Let's see if I can't get it a little closer so I'm actually on axis. Okay. All right. In interviews, the filmmakers have given mixed answers about whether Nomadland is a political movie. Zhao told IndieWire last September that she wanted to avoid politics. Quote, I tried to focus on the human experience and things that I feel go beyond political statements to be more universal. The loss of a loved one, searching for a home, close quote, which is such a bullshit, weaselly, but what I would expect from someone who grew up rich and going, I got nothing to, I cannot relate to these people on that level. So I'll look for what's universal. I don't know. Most people can be afraid of economic collapse. Not a rich person. That's the one thing they never fear. They're not worried about, the plant leaving town. Everyone else is.
Yeah.
Universal. Yeah. It's got to apply to me, daughter of a rich father. Then it's universal. Okay.
Can you actually say, okay.
Wait. Continue. Okay, go ahead, Jim. No.
I was just going to say, how can you possibly tackle a project like this and claim that it's not political? I mean, that's...
I know. Well, she goes... Now, of course, they started to get beat up a little, especially as the Bessemer thing started to pick up steam, right? All of a sudden, and like questions were starting to be asked. Things change a little. So, it continues. She told Vulture's Alison Wilmore, I expect for searching, reaching into this, that politics were embedded into Nomadland's every frame. If you look deeply, there's a thinky weasel way out. If you look deeply, it's just, yes, there's the beautiful sunset behind it. It goes further, though. But in an interview with The Wrap earlier this month, Zhao's partner and the cinematographer, Joshua James Richards, said it was a, quote, weird argument to say the movie is making a big critical statement about Amazon. I mean, we simply show Fern working there. We also show a Ford Econoline as well. But I don't think we're making a big critical statement about Ford. As a matter of fact, I'm going to interject here quickly before I finish the quote of like, you made about as critical a statement about Amazon as you did about Ford. It's other people. Like, it's that weird twisting of an argument. It's like, we're not making some big statement about Amazon. We know that, asshole. You made that quite clear. Good money, no commentary. Okay, yeah. Obviously, you can find politics in anything. And God, I hate that. It's just, I do. I want to say what the hell is this? Joshua James Richards. Always, here's a hot. 3 names, always a douchebag. Hot take. Here's one more for you. I want to just say, fuck you, Richards. Hot take.
But Dragon Movie Guy has 3 names.
Listen, Brian is a solid guy. Well, we don't always agree. Unlike, except for compared to some of the other folks who commented on our, it's like, my goodness, we're like 2 peas in a pod when you look at some of the other opinions on Zack Snyder's Justice League. Which actually, I'm so wound up about this. It makes me kind of look forward to running down the next Zack Snyder film, which will be on our schedule in May. That Heist of the Dead, or I don't know, that dead
Army of the Dead.
Oh, thank you, Army of the Dead. It is a heist film in a zombie movie. I can't help myself. I can't help myself. I'm just, maybe this time it'll be good. Anyway,
did I hear
enough
zombie
cheap shots
gold?
on Zack Snyder? Okay, let's come back to the comments. DMG says, keep in mind too, movie takes place during the Great Recession. Unofficial unemployment in Nevada back then was 25%. Yeah. There is very little agency to be had by anyone. That's a good point. Like you know what? No, it's not in the text. Like, I mean, Katie, what you're saying about she rejects these choices in the text, it's not a, DMG raises a great point, but I'm thinking, Katie, like what you're talking about, and I put them together and I go, that both would work if we saw either A, that woman said, no, we're economically secure. You really can stay as long as you want. Don't worry about it. Hey, if you want to live out of your van in our drive, well, okay, maybe don't do that because our neighbors will be on our ass, the homeowners association, whatever. But there's not that, we don't see any tension. We don't see any kind of thing that says, they're offering, but they don't want you to accept.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It seems genuine.
Yeah. Whereas, what he's bringing up can literally be, he's right. And if we saw a bit of that context, if we saw we're struggling, but I think it's more along the lines of, here would be the offer, but it doesn't allow them to do their BS character study. But what if the offer's, listen, I got to talk to my husband. We already got his brother-in-law and my sister living with us, but you can at least come by, get a hot shower every now and then, something like that. That would feel a little more like, going back to what Katie was saying earlier, like no choice. Does that make sense to you, Katie?
Yeah. Like there's definitely a difference. Like there's an offer for there's definitely a difference between those two types of offers, I would say.
Here's, oh my goodness, Jelly Duck. I can't believe I missed this.
Sorry, I should have said something. I noticed.
So good to see ya. Oh, you know what? We're moving. We're making things happen. It's all working out. Okay. Jelly Duck goes, I actually never knew the woman is from Fargo. Are we talking like Fern, the character? I don't think that was stated, eh?
No, Frances McDormand.
Is she?
She was in the, she was the sheriff.
She was in the movie Fargo.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't think she herself, like she was born to a preacher, actually, a Disciples of Christ preacher. A lot of towns in the Midwest. Interesting note. Okay, Richard L. Some more useless trivia about Empire, Nevada. Is about 20 miles south of where the Burning Man Festival is held most years. Let's bring this full circle, you guys. Jessica Bruder's first book was on the Burning Man Festival.
Oh, okay.
So that may actually be the whole, kind of the circle. I haven't had a chance to read the book myself. I'm kind of interested, but I'm kind of conflicted, you guys. I don't know. Like it's a reporter exploring these people's lives. And you know what? Sometimes I'd really just rather these people interpret their own lives to us instead of a trained reporter with a master's and teaches at Columbia and it just, after a while, it's like how many rich or affluent people are interpreting these people's experience and bringing the box, I wanted it to be universal. Jesus, Chloe, most people can fucking fear when the plant gets shut down. Jesus Christ, you're using non-union crew, but you're in a business where the plant was shut down and a lot of workers were suffering because of that. And some of them, the only way they stayed afloat because they were members of fucking unions. Mm-hmm. Another hot take from Rob Christensen. Hot take. Eventually, you guys will be sick of it. Doesn't look
never.
like this show, not for Katie.
No, never.
Never.
Okay, continuing. All right. Curtis Judd says, my wife did her paleontology work in the middle of nowhere, Nevada. That is nine kinds of awesome.
Yeah.
We really did pick the right movie with the right chat. This, yet again, is why, Jim, we have the best chat on the internet. Hands down. You know what? DMG says, and I think this is part of what we were talking about before. Yeah, you start drawing it early, you're getting less money. And yes, she does. And I think that's what we're alluding to. It just didn't make it as clear as you're doing it. Thanks for that, DMG. Appreciate it, brother. And then apparently Jim chimed in on the chat as well.
There's a defensive text.
Yeah. All right. Dragon Movie, Northern Nevada, Arizona Desert, rural South Dakota. All of the areas in this film are very red state. The people in these areas don't want to rely on the government. This is Tea Party area. Good. And I think you're absolutely right, DMG. But they needed to show that in the film, and they didn't. You know what? Of course, it's set in 2011, 2012, so you're not going to see Trump stuff, but you're going to see something. There's going to be that vibe, that chat, You know what, DMG? We all know what I'm reaching for. DMG says, Rob's putting the crazy Kino into Jim and Rob. That's an awesome hot take.
Woohoo.
DMG.
That's his first.
That is his first hot take.
Is it?
He's got great zingers. I need a thing for zingers. Because he's got a bit of a hot take and a zinger all bundled into one.
Yes.
I'm going to work on that for next week. All right. CGI zombies in Vegas, referring to an upcoming Zack Snyder film.
You missed my earlier line. Did you say zombie gold?
I did miss it. That is an awesome line. I can't even call that a hot take, though. It's another zinger. We need a zinger. We need, there's hot take Harry or Henry. I keep mixing the two up. All right. Let's get back to, all right. So guys, I think we've caught up on the chat. We've, you know what? I think if I add anything more, it'll just be more of a rant. There were a number of articles. I found a Guardian article. There were a number of articles on some of the stuff I'm complaining about, which I will end up pinning in a comment, along with a link to the video I was talking about. I'll pin that. But I got nothing to add. What about you, Katie?
Yeah, I
anything
guess,
to add on meaning?
Yeah. I think there's. I guess I just want to make it clear that I totally get that there are, like, many of those people in the film that are nomads are there because they don't have a choice. I think about, just to compare it to another movie I've seen, I think Jim's seen it too, We Were Warriors. A
long time ago.
Okay. And anyways, I won't go into too much detail, but there's a character in that movie where she really, she's very young, like a teenage girl, among other characters in the film, where she really, like, does not have a choice in her situation at all. It's like if she stays home, it's awful, and if she, tries and do it, if she tries and goes out on her own, it's also awful. So I know that there's definitely those scenarios where you don't have a choice, but I still stand by that. I think Fern did have a choice. So,
well, and that, I think, is part of the problem with this film, right? Is she's presented as she's just making choices best for her truth, or some new age bullshit.
Yeah.
Yet another hot take from Rob.
Yeah.
I can't stop myself.
And
so
then
go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No,
I was going to move to a slightly different topic, so you go ahead.
Okay, all right. You know what? And then, you know what? Save that for final thoughts. I think now it's time, before we move to... I want Curtis to give us a bit more in the comments, if he wouldn't mind sharing a bit more on his wife's paleontology work, because that's just cool. But while we're doing that, I think it is time, actually. Jim, why don't we talk about the show we're watching, what show are we watching next week?
No, it's a brand new experience, a whole new thing that we're trying out. We are going to be viewing the Oscars with our Oscar watch party and our little contest, our voting contest, and just doing the thing, wearing tuxedo t-shirts and getting hot takes. Just ad-libbing here, but yeah, it's red carpet. Good. It's red carpet week in Winnipeg next week, and all leading to the Oscars, Kodak Theater, or wherever they filmed it now. But that's a great thumbnail, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm proud of that. But I have to, a shout out. I don't know if Sean's still here listening, but if he's still here, yeah, part of it is Sean's forcing me to up my thumbnail game, we're doing that next week, and we've got a great lineup for everyone. I want to make sure everybody understands. Like, first of all, there's a prediction contest. So yeah, go fill in your card. You can't play if you don't enter, right? So in the description, and I'll put it in the pinned link. I'll pin it in a comment for later. But yes, you can go put in an entry to who you think will win each thing. We've got a scoring system, courtesy of Sean at Lost in the Reel. Our good friend Cody Brockup will be there. We're adding another component, and that's going to be throughout the course of the evening, because, the Oscars are except when they're announcing something and arguing about it. For us, the Oscars can have some dry moments, and that's when we're going to have trivia throughout the night. Some will be aimed at making the host team look stupid. Some will be for folks in the chat, specifically Oscar trivia for them. And that is going to be run by someone active in the chat right now, but he'll come in every now and then, as our trivia game leader, DMG Brian from Dragon Movie Guy. So you know what? It's going to be a great show. It'll start right at 7 p.m. Central Time. When the Oscars start. Jim may be joining us later in the evening because work's a taskmaster. At least it's unionized work with benefits.
Yes.
So I cannot
Peace
help
out.
myself. There you go. Public Service Alliance Canada, folks. You know what? But it's going to be a fun night. We're going to have a lot of laughs. There may be prizes. They'll be incredibly low value. I'm a poor man. I'm a special events consultant. How much money you think I've been making on that lately? All right. So with that out of the way, guys, let's first of all, the director, pass or fail. Katie, are we giving Chloe a pass or a fail? It's tough, isn't it?
I gotta go.
I guess, if I were to go off of what, before the show started, I guess my answer would be she would have passed. So before, at 9:29. Yeah. Central Daylight Time.
And yet here we are now.
Yeah. So
it's why I put it at the end.
Yeah.
Why don't you give it a letter score? Because we are saying pass or fail. Why don't you give it a letter score? That'll help you get some nuance. Okay.
Well, no, I'll give her a pass.
All right.
But with the caveat that there's probably a long lineup of directors behind her that have done similar things, and they've all gotten passes too. So that could have brought more to the forefront of the story, and they don't, but they get all the accolades anyway. So why wouldn't she either?
Jim, pass or fail?
When we started
for Ms. Zhao.
When we started the show, I probably would have said pass, but I don't know if I can do that now. It looks good. She coaxed some good performances out of people who maybe aren't traditional performers. It had some sort of coherence to it, but you're right. The stripping of all that, all the political stuff. I don't often give fails. So I'd have to give her a fail at this point, maybe. Yeah, mm-hmm. And that being non-unionized and that's pretty lousy. Yeah,
it's kind of a greasy move in making a movie, especially about poor people, to choose the non-union worker. It's like,
exactly.
Fuck, are you kidding me?
Yeah. So I'd have to, the spirit of it, I'd have to give it a fail. She did some things nicely, but that's hard to get around, actually.
Yeah.
Genuinely,
yeah. For myself, and I kind of see, I'm going back to something Katie said that I think's important. Like I think I gave Aaron Sorkin a pass. I gave Buddy, who did help me out, Katie. It was a movie you suggested. We did The Great Divide. No, The Dark Divide.
Deep Dark Divide.
The Dark Divide. If memory serves, I gave it a pass. Not a big pass, but I gave it a pass. So that said, and I thought about this before because I'm like, I want to be consistent. But that said, I think this goes beyond, and especially for me, it just goes beyond. Like Aaron Sorkin, I can rail about it, but I'm still not as bothered as I am about this film. And some of it is the class issues that come up. It reminds me of growing up poor. I'm a working class kid who grew up in a housing co-op, for Christ's sakes. There's just something deeply disturbing about the choices they made that, Frances McDormand, the producer, the woman who made this, like, it would have been her star power that got the financing and everything, basing it on a rich person's fantasy. It's like, I'd just like to be on the open road like these other hobos. That sounds so romantic. That's fucking awful. Zhao's comment about universality. It's like, bullshit. Just call him bullshit on that. I can't do it. That said, if I'm in the report card and I'm giving it an E, I'm giving it an F, fail. But I can say I could check off all the competencies. Yeah, we're going to see we might see some great work from her. It's a tough one because let's say there's a lot of compromises to get the film made, and there always are, but maybe some of these are. She did want to be more political, but decided, I really want that Amazon shot, so I won't knock them, and I won't do this. Well, you know what? Do you become just a very competent, but in the end, middle of the road, and I know the woman she's Chinese. She was born in China. So when I say that, metaphorically kind of white, affluent, let's say more a bourgeois. There we go. This is an accurate, a bourgeois view of the world that will not ring true in 10 years. Whereas it could be like Madawan, it's still talked about. Norma Ray talked about, still viscerally, Silkwood even. Jeez, that was a good movie. I think so. I would say, boy, technical skills are there. Her storytelling skills are there, but if she's going to be great, she has to have not a bullshit cop-out worldview. She's got to have an opinion, and she doesn't. She cops out, and that's what hurts this film. That, I think, is probably the best explanation for Katie, what you're talking about, that just that very idea of that you didn't feel like, there's an antagonist here, that there is any change. There's no, anyway, so there you go. I gotta say fail, but if she would just step up, she could be like one of the greats. She's got the technical skills. Yeah.
Check out her next project is a Marvel movie, I believe, The Eternals, which actually makes sense now because they had that little marquee of the Avengers that Frances McDormand was walking past.
So she's going to be an A-list director who'll do corporate crap. Disney-friendly tales of resilience and hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I totally
fail.
I totally support both of your responses.
And Katie, I'm not trying to change your mind. Don't get me wrong.
No, and I'm not
get where you're coming
mind.
from.
No.
I
was just going to add that as far as I feel like it's going to sound like I'm defending her now, but was this a missed opportunity? It was like a giant missed opportunity, I think, on her part to go about things differently. Is there a lineup of directors behind her that have missed opportunities? There's plenty, and I think it's sort of perhaps this is depending on how the media has responded to this. I haven't really read into it all that much, but perhaps this is maybe this could hopefully turn the tide in some way if it's gotten to this outrageous level that if things go back, if it gets bad publicity or anything like that, then perhaps what we can hope for is for movies in the future. But yeah, like I said, like I don't know if
I don't think she's getting that. There's some pushback, but she's not getting bad publicity. I think she's still going to roll into. I still think she's going to roll into an Oscar. Like I don't think it's that big. Like she's not a terrible human being. It's not come out that she's not Joss Whedon. And she's like, I find it deeply offensive. I don't think most people will find this movie offensive. They'll buy but it's a character study. It's that standard bullshit excuse of, well, you're just reading too much into it. It's like, yeah, no, I'm fucking not. But as far as Chloe Zhao's career goes, she'll be fine.
I think I think she will be for sure. And I just think that, it was a giant missed opportunity. I think there's directors that have come before her that they've all missed opportunities.
Absolutely.
And it's really, it's about us deciding whether, it's their role. Is it their role just to create the art or to bring in all the components that come with it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it is.
It must, and people might have different opinions.
That's easy.
About it.
Yeah, that's easy. No, and a lot of people
some people would argue that their job is just to create the art, and
so
but
you don't bring in that context, you're making shitty art. You know what? It is. It's I'm firmly on the side of that debate that they're not, because that means they're above criticism. Well, they're just making the art. What? Now I guess we just accept it 100% on their terms. And I'm like, but I live in the world and I watch things and I bring the things in the world that I'm watching. No artist gets that fucking excuse. I'm just making art. It's like, bullshit, you aren't. You're making choices. And we get to analyze and critique those choices. Or we really are. Then we are. We're all just dummies or sit there and watch the movie. That's your role. Pay for the movie, watch the movie. Vote only with your pocketbook. Don't go see it. Or maybe go see it. Or, and again, it is a good movie. Like, it's a well done movie. It's got some great things. And she is worthy of technical praise as a director. But yeah, there's this huge hole in it that I think is worthy of opprobrium, and beyond that, of judgment. We get to judge. And say, going back, Aaron Sorkin judged it, ranted about it. There was another Rob's rant about fucking stripping the politics out of it. Yeah. Whereas Steve McQueen, it's like, God damn, that was goddamn genius. And it's in there. It makes it more real. So I think it's legitimate for us to criticize just because it is. It's not a one-way conversation as much as Capital wants it that way. Hey, another Marxist rant, Katie. Film, and it's interesting. They talk about the male gaze of the camera, which I do. I'm not questioning that. That is a thing. It's a demonstrable, provable thing. But what no one talks about is the powerful's ability to project the real, the real thing that goes on in a film is we sit there quietly and watch it. It projects all its ideas onto us. And to then allow the artist I'm just making the art. It's, it's like, well, no, you're projecting your fucking art on me. And all your ideas. And yes, if you didn't include it, that's still a goddamn choice. Frances McDormand, they made choices. just as Sorkin et al. Have made choices, but this one I find more personally offensive than I even found that one. It's more visceral, it's more real. The victims are the victims within this film that aren't labeled as victims, and they're victims of terrible economic, crime, they're denied that because she made the choice not to, for universality. And to not judge her, to say, oh, she's just the artist, is giving her and all the other moneyed interests behind her like a walk,
Yeah, no.
And I'm unwilling to give them that fucking walk.
Yeah. I would agree.
I can't even do the hot take. I can't do
there
it.
There was
I would
something
agree,
on
but
the...
some.
Oh wait,
some others
continue,
might not,
Katie. Oh
no,
yeah,
sure.
Sure.
I agree, but a lot of people wouldn't. So
yeah, you know what? So what? For them. So it's the. First of all, even when they're saying it, they have no problem criticizing other art. Usually the only people who love that are artists who've been recently criticized. And yet, they're the first ones to whine about somebody else who got a grant. Have you seen their work? It's terrible. It's derivative. It's this. It's that. Wham, wham, wham. Why make art if you accept no response? To artists out there, don't fucking do it. If you're like, I can only talk at you and not hear anything back, hope you heard the snap.
It's good.
Yet another hot take from Rob Christensen.
I caught the tail end of something on CBC radio in the car the other day, and it was they were talking about Judas and the Black Messiah, and it would have been perfect. And they said there that, they were concluding, and they said, so in conclusion, it wasn't the movie that the director wanted to make. And I thought, I want to hear the rest of that. It was just the local broadcast, just before the 5:30 news.
And Jim's trying to get me off the topic.
No, I'm saying that in terms of, you have to wonder, film as an art. There's compromise in everything. Is film particularly vulnerable to compromise? In that, in that case, it's an expensive, labor-intensive process, multi-year process.
It's a capitalist art form, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyhow.
Well, on that note, Jim, and I guess we've kind of shuffled our way into final thoughts. On that note, well, first of all, DMG had brought up something about Judas and the Black Messiah that I wanted to bring up, and I forgot about this. He had brought it up in a comment, and I wanted to bring it up here. You guys Katie, you and Richard, did you guys watch Judas and the Black Messiah? Did you get a chance to watch it?
No, we haven't watched it yet.
Okay. He had commented, he thought, the one thing he thought was kind of weak was in the middle of the film, there was some montages. He thought they were kind of like, there's some scenes here that just they got cut up. We're missing some. And I was wondering if, I got to admit, I'm like, I might have to watch it again. I did not catch that play, but I wanted to bring that up. Let's get into our final thoughts on this film. And Katie, you know what? Let's start with you. And I'm going to do my goddamn best not to be, because I know I don't want to. I'm not arguing with you. I'm more like kind of, that's a hot button of mine, and I am not going to rant again. I'm going to do my goddamnedest to keep my mouth shut. Katie, final thoughts. Oh, actually, before that, everybody, we need a like, notwithstanding my screaming. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And last, but certainly not least, Jim, are you ready? Let's ring that bell.
There we go.
Alrighty. Katie, yes. Final thoughts.
Okay. So, I guess one of the sub themes of this film is choice, in my opinion. So I'm going to give our audience today a choice.
Oh, okay.
If someone asks if you've seen the movie, if you've seen Nomadland, and they ask you, your friends that haven't seen it yet, they ask you, okay, is it worth your time? Should I watch this movie? So I'm going to give you a choice. You can either tell them, yes, it's worth your time, or if you want, you can suggest another film that instead of it being about a plant shutting down or a one town, sorry, I don't know if it was a plant exactly, but a one business town where the business shuts down. So instead of watching that type of film, I can help you out and give you another suggestion instead of a film to watch. It is. So instead of the one town,
can you? Okay. Cut to the chase here, Katie.
Okay.
Just say, hey, if you don't want to recommend this movie, here's an option.
Here's this one you're going to recommend instead. It's called Le Grand Séduction, or in English, it's called The Great Seduction. So instead of the company, the one town business shutting down, it's about a town that is trying to get a big business to set up shop in their town, but they need a town doctor for insurance purposes for this business to set up shop here. Turns out a doctor is in Montreal. I guess he's dabbled into some minor drug. He has a minor drug charge. So as punishment, he's shipped off to this small town in northern Quebec. And the story that unfolds is hilarious. So it's a very good movie. And instead of
how the town tries to seduce him to stay so they can get this business.
So they get this business. So instead of the business shutting down and it's a woman's journey, it's about trying to get this business to set up in this town.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's a much better film. So if you
Canadian
have that dilemma,
that's wonderful. Thank you,
maybe we
Katie.
could do it here. We could do that here. We can watch the movie
perhaps,
here.
we will. You know what? That's a great idea. We'll put this on our list sometime in the future.
Yes.
That wouldn't stop anyone who's watching this to just go and rent it now or whatever, but we will, we'll get that on our list. We don't do enough Canadian film on what is ostensibly 3 Canadians talking about film. Okay. Just before we jump to you, Jim, DMG says, Claude Zhao as director, 4 stars out of 5. I disagree on the I'm assuming he means romanticization of living on the road. More about death of the American dream and what agency one has when it's done to you. You know, I agree with one of those things. But thank you very much for bringing that up. And he does comment, northern. You know what? It's been done. That idea has been done a few times.
It's been redone, actually.
A Michael J. Fox movie, a great movie set in Scotland, where they try and do it. But we're gonna do this one.
Yeah, I think that the movie has been redone. Maybe Richard can chime in on the chat, but the original is the way to go. I haven't heard good.
When did it come out? That's relatively recent, isn't it?
Richard,
last 10
can
years.
Chime in with the, even maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking Michael J. Fox in his heyday in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
Local Hero is the Scottish one. I think
that's the one. And that's another 80s flick too, I think.
Yeah, Peter Riegert is the lead.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Evidently, so.
It's a sweetheart film, though. It's got a sweetness to it, doesn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Lancaster's in it. Awesome.
And yes, there wasn't a DeLorean in it, DMG. Okay, but yes, The Great Seduction. I love this idea. We're fucking doing it.
Yes.
Jim, you cool with that? Because
Yeah, oh, yeah.
here is I make decisions.
It's
okay.
good.
All right. Jim, final thoughts.
I think we sort of covered it all. It's a movie you can kind of compartmentalize. I'm sort of, I think I've changed my mind over the course of this show. That I was thinking, which is good. Why it's not in print, because you'd be committed, but
I think that's one of the great things about the show, the chat, that we are talking to each other. You know what? Anyway, continue. Sorry,
that's true. It's just it's sort of you can't have things both ways. I think, and you can't do a movie about poor folks and sort of do it in a Weasley way. That's not the only thing. I mean, half of this movie is there's a good movie here. I think they just should have probably taken the plunge. As a character study again, maybe the question is, should we watch the movie or should we read the book? And maybe I'll just leave it at that.
That's a great point too. And the other thing is let's say even as much as this film pisses me off, which I think it's now at the top of the list, or let's say for this year, because we're now in our second year, Jim. We have started our second year with this show, our second year of live stream podcasting, which is kind of awesome. Great. We're celebrating this with you, Katie. I'm so glad you could make it. One of the great things about not just our format, but this kind of thing is we do, and coming back to Richard's Devil's Advocate, Katie's comment about art and art criticism and, what's the role of the artist here. I think that's the great thing about something like this that you couldn't have 20 years ago. The gatekeepers, were hired by newspapers and so had a worldview themselves. Here we get to have a wider conversation. And I think that's part of what I love about doing the show every week with you, Jim. Katie, you know what? It's why I like having you on. We get to, may get passionate, but it does. I feel like I hone my opinion here. I have changed it on occasion, like you have, Jim, in this case. But, at times it's like, at times I walk out, so I'm even more confident of how I feel on this subject, Coming back to something Katie said, though, and I think I do need to clarify or, let's say, modify my opinion on it a bit. Do I have a right to tell the artist what she should have done? You know what? No, actually. The artist makes their movie, right? I have every right to say, fuck, you missed something. That this sucks. And that's, I think that maybe is closer to what you were talking about, Katie. At the same time, I still kind of credit, because it's used by people who are getting told what to do. Give Zhao the benefit of that. One of the things we can say, to give her the benefit of the doubt, she is, much like the director, she was hired for this job. McDormand had the rights. They went and talked to her. She had some influence, but it really is Frances McDormand's, as much as anything. Yeah. She's not, it's not as bad as the old guard, which is why I'm cutting her less slack than I did the director of the old guard. Where it's, $70 million of where did that money go? But here's the distinction I'm trying to make, you guys.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like I'm willing to give her the credit, or let's say the slack I'm giving her that I'm not willing to give Ms. Zhao, is because we're not talking the same amount of money. We're talking a lot more equal relationship, and this is a big choice. The woman didn't have to take the gig.
No, she has.
It's not like,
there's the choice thing again.
Yeah, I think so. I think for Ms. Zhao, it's like, no. Fail. Young lady, please take this record. Or we don't even. It's already, your report card is already with your parents. You can go now. Please leave my office. I don't mean you, Katie. I mean Ms. Zhao, because I'm marking her or whatever. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Alrighty, guys. I think it's that time to wrap up. Maybe meet you guys in the green room, but in the meantime, let's. Did we miss any? You know what? One more. Yes. So, La Grande Seduction.
Oui.
The English title is Seducing Dr. Lewis. Thank you very much, Richard L. You do research like 1,000. Folks, once again, thank you all for coming. First of all, Katie, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, bringing your audience member A game, and look forward to getting you, because I did order another gizmo, so I know I can address your sound stuff next time. Perhaps for Seducing Dr. Lewis. You know what? We'll have you back for sure for that. But thank you very, very much for coming. And you know what? We'll see you in the green room, and you stick around with us for a bit as we have our usual debrief. Yeah. All right. You and Jim can talk about ducks. All right. Yeah. Katie, thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Jim.
Yes,
what
sir.
Can I say?
Gotta get on
another show. What's that?
Sit up straight. I gotta sit up straight here.
Looks like it's freezing. I don't know if the restream's jerking me around again or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jim, thanks as always.
See you, folks.
We're starting our second year, dude. This is
awesome.
Cool.
It's very awesome. Yeah. Thanks all for joining us. Nice chatting with you.
You bet. All right, everybody. Again, thank you all so very much. DMG, thanks very much, Dragon Movie Guy. Thanks for coming by, and we'll definitely see you next week on our Watch Party show. Richard, once again, thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for being part of the best chat on the internet. And all that research. You do research like 1,000. Okay, who am I missing here? Curtis, thanks for dropping by from Utah and for giving me, hopefully, my cheap shots on redneck parts of Utah. Ahmed, Jelly Duck, I don't know if you're still here, but thanks for coming by. Really appreciate it. That was awesome. Who else am I? Sean from Lost in the Real, thanks for coming by. And last but certainly not least, I believe is one of our new folks, Mr. Beaver. He also runs his own interesting podcast, and I believe he's kind of changing up the format, calling it Beaver Does, but we'll get more info. I'll have more info available the next time he pops in. So anyway, thank you all very much for popping by. And with that, I think it's time to... is it that time? I think so. I think it's time to bring down the tunes and cue the outro. I've been in your world.